guys, welcome back to Goodbye Grains into week 3 of Thanksgiving recipes. This week we are making a dessert, and it will definitely include pumpkin, but it is not pumpkin pie. This is going to be kind of more like a pumpkin pudding trifle type of dish. I'm actually going to make them in individual glasses so that you can just serve them to each guest. You don't have to have a giant bowl. You can just have individual cups. You certainly can put this into, if you have like a trifle bowl, you certainly can layer it in that way, but it's a lot easier, especially if you just have decorative glasses. You can use, I'm actually going to use some stemless wine glasses to put the individual portions in. So for the ingredients, we have some pumpkin. We have 2 cans of coconut milk. Now, one of the cans we are going to be using part of it for the actual like pudding type filling, and then the other can I'm actually going to be making into coconut whipped cream. We have some eggs. We're going to be using 3 eggs for this. For seasoning stuff, like to kind of flavor the batter a little bit, we have a little bit of fleur de sel, some cinnamon, vanilla, and then a little bit of pure maple syrup. And then lastly, to kind of add a little bit of crunch and a little bit of more of kind of the, what would you call, like the cookie type of crumble that would be in the trifle, is these little ginger cinnamon cookies that I made. I put the recipe on the blog earlier this week. I'll put a link down below, but these are tiny little like cookies that you can kind of just crumble on top or layer in however you want to do those. So first we are going to make the pumpkin pudding filling. Okay, so I have some coconut milk that is just kind of simmering over some medium-low heat. We just want to warm this up a little bit so that we can temper the eggs. I have my eggs in just in a regular measuring cup, and we're just going to kind of use a fork and mix them together. So is what we're going to do. This coconut has been simmering for about 3 to 5 minutes, so it's definitely nice and light and warm. So we can kind of just slightly move this back, and I'll turn the heat off for a second. And what we are going to do is lightly temper the egg yolks and the egg whites together. So just adding a little bit of the coconut milk and then making sure that we stir it. And once these egg yolks and egg whites are nice and tempered, we are going to add the egg mixture back into the pan and then turn the heat on low. But we don't just want to dump them right in, because otherwise these eggs will scramble, and then you're basically going to have like scrambled eggs mixed with pumpkin and some other stuff. So once we have at least half of the coconut milk incorporated into the egg, you can kind of feel the side. As long as it feels on the warmer side, you are ready to continue putting this back onto the stove. So I can relight the burner, and definitely you still want to put it back to medium. We can add in our egg mixture now that it's tempered. So you can use a whisk, and you kind of want to keep whisking this. You don't want to let it stop, because you want to make sure that it's evenly heating. And then we are going to add, this is our pumpkin puree. So we can add that right in. Use the fork. And then we can add also in some of our maple syrup. And then you want to whisk this until it's nice and smooth. And you're kind of making a pudding custard type filling. So you can keep whisking. And then we can add in some of our cinnamon and a little bit of our fleur de sel, and then whisk the spices in. And so now we want to cook this over medium heat for at least 5 minutes or so until it thickens a little bit and until the egg is thoroughly cooked through. After that, we are going to add a little bit of our vanilla, and then we can pour this into a container and chill it in the fridge until it's nice and cold. Okay, so while the pudding is chilling, we can make our coconut whipped cream. And so I put a can of the coconut milk in the fridge overnight. You want to leave it probably at least 24 hours, actually, even longer than that if you can. And don't shake the can when you first pull it out. But as you can see, this is kind of like hard. I can almost like tap on it. So you are going to scoop out all of the hardened coconut cream into a bowl. And you want to be as careful as possible not to get a ton of the liquid that has kind of settled underneath the coconut cream. So you can kind of scoop all of this out. And making coconut whipped cream you can use for a ton of other things. I've used it in plenty of other recipes. So this is basically the same way that I make it every single time. So you can spoon out this hard coconut cream, and then I'll show you kind of what is left in the can afterwards. So there we go. So if you can see this, there's kind of like this milky colored water and mixed with a little bit of the coconut milk that is left over. So we are going to be using some of this liquid to thin this out, but it really depends on how thick your coconut cream is. So we can make sure we get all this into the bowl. And then you are going to, starting on low speed, kind of do or use the egg beaters to make the coconut cream into coconut whipped cream. So very similar if you've ever used regular whipping cream. You just want to start low and kind of progressively increase your speed. And so once you've gotten it so that it's kind of a super thick, kind of creamy consistency, that is kind of like this. You can then, just using a spoonful at a time of the coconut milk liquid that's left at the bottom of the can, you can add it until you kind of get more of a whipped cream type consistency. You don't want something that, I mean, this is so unbelievably thick that you can't even really spoon it. It sticks straight to the beaters. That's not what you want. So you want to spoon in just a spoonful at a time of the liquid while you have your mixer running. Okay, so I probably added the equivalent of almost 1/4 of a cup. It really does depend on the type of coconut milk that you use though. But so that you can see, it definitely holds a stiff peak. Let's see if you can see that a little easier. It definitely holds more of a stiff peak. If you move it around, it's not going anywhere, but it's thin enough that you can actually scoop it out. So we can put some plastic wrap over this and store this in the fridge. Once our pumpkin pudding is ready, we can build our layers. Okay, so the pumpkin filling has been chilling for probably about 1.5 to 2 hours. So it's nice and cold. You can feel the sides. You definitely want it to, it doesn't have to be ice cold, but you want it to be very, very cool. You don't want to have any warmth in it at all because it'll start to melt the coconut whipped cream. So these are the glasses I was talking about. These are like stemless wine glasses. You can definitely use if you have small bowls. The reason why I like using glass is because then you can see kind of the pumpkin filling on the bottom and then the coconut whipped cream and then these little ginger cinnamon cookies on top. You certainly can use just regular bowls or ramekins though if you prefer. So this is going to make about 4. So we are going to evenly divide the filling among the 4 glasses, then top it with the coconut whipped cream, and then put some of the cookies on the top. And then once you are done filling these, you can see you have the filling on the bottom with some of the coconut whipped cream and then the cookies on the top. Now, if you want to, you can certainly do multiple layers, or if you want to, as I kind of mentioned before, you can do the entire batch in one bowl and then just kind of portion it out at the actual table. So you can store these in the fridge and then they are ready to serve for. So definitely give this recipe a shot. It's also perfect to make with kids, especially if you make the 3 components, the pudding, the whipped cream, and then the cookies. They can help you kind of fill the glasses and feel like they were involved in helping with Thanksgiving dinner. So I will see you guys next week with one more side dish. Have a great day.